What's good, everyone, and welcome back to another reaction video. As you can see, I got a new mic. Very different from the old one, I'm gonna be honest. So, I don't really know how to go about this because this mic is completely different from the previous one, so I'm going to need some opinions when it comes down to it. One being sound and all that. Because when it comes to sound, I'm honestly going by my own preference, and I'd rather have the preference of those that are watching these videos so that I can make things better. Like, for example, I could do this with the mic, which should prevent sound from like being too loud. And then there's stuff like this where I can bring the mic very close. And yeah, though I feel like this would be more counterproductive because this would be probably a bit too loud in all honesty. So, hence why I'm hesitant to do this. And then there's distance like this, distance like this, and so on. Honestly, I'd like to hear your opinion on which one sounds better. Right now, I'm going to do this. If this is more of a preference that you want to hear, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. If not, put the timestamp on the video and give your preference, in all honesty. And I'll be sure to more preferably do that one. Yeah. Other than that, not much else to really say. But today we are going to be reacting to theme parks, uh, theme park secrets operators don't want you to know. So these are things that the operators of some of the rides in theme parks don't want anyone to know, like accidents, incidents, probably. Uh, if something's malfunctioning, if something's on the fritz, that kind of thing, probably. At the very least, that's what I'm assuming. So, yeah, that might be it. Anyway, other than that, I don't really have any better idea of what it means. So, yeah. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Nevertheless, like, comment, and subscribe if you do enjoy this video. Hit the notification button to be notified immediately when the video comes out. And if there's any videos you'd like to recommend that I should react to, put it down in the comment section below, and I'll react to it as soon as possible. The link to this video is going to be down in the description below, so be sure to give BMA some love and support for the video that they made. Now, with this all said, let's get right into this video. This one's a bit long, so I'm going to try pause in moderation.
Ever wondered what actually happens when you get stuck on a roller coaster? Or which rides are secretly the most deadly? Pull down those lap bars because today we're taking you on a ride through some of the craziest theme park secrets out there. From how theme parks secretly control your decisions, to why if you ever see someone pull out a big bag of white powder at a theme park, you should run. But not for the reason you think. We've got it all. Let's get into it. Okay, this first secret's gonna sound insane, but it's been confirmed by multiple theme park employees. Theme parks have secret code words, like actual phrases used to talk about all the wild stuff happening around you without you knowing about it. Let's start with
Really?
one of the darkest. Ever heard of a white powder alert? Sounds like something
Not
from a
really.
true crime doc, or like someone's hitting the old Colombian nose candy. But nope, it means someone just illegally scattered a loved one's ashes on park property. And yep, it happens
what?
so often that there are official codes for it. You might also hear staff call for a HEPA cleanup. That's code for bringing in a high-efficiency particulate air vacuum specifically designed to suck up the tiniest ash particles. Creepy, right? This happens a lot at Disney parks. Probably because people want to leave a part of their loved one in the happiest place on Earth. The most common hotspots for this include the Princess Castles, It's a Small World, and creepiest of all, the Haunted Mansion ride. So if you're planning to make Disney your forever resting place, just know you'll probably end up in the bottom of a vacuum bag. Another creepy signal to watch out for now. At some theme parks, especially on a hot day, if you see a costumed character rubbing one of their eyes on their suit, it's not to be cutesy. Apparently, that's their secret signal for, I'm about to pass out, get me the heck out of here. Yeah, there's a code for literally melting inside a suit. Makes you wonder if the creators of Five Nights at Freddy's ever worked at Disney. Also at Disney, there's a subtle way employees get back at difficult customers. If a Disney staff member ever calls you a treasured guest, it's not a compliment. Nope. It's their secret code for calling out rude visitors. Think Karen in mini ears. Now, one more code you'll probably wish I hadn't told you. Imagine walking through the park and suddenly hearing an employee reporting a protein spill into their walkie. That's not a Gym Bros lunch. It means someone vomited. Sometimes it's referred to as a code V. It's definitely a cleaner way of saying someone just yacked up their combo meal all over the log flume splash zone. And there's AFR, which stands for Accidental Fecal Release. And the less said about that, the better. So yeah, next time you're in a theme park, keep your ears open. You might just catch the real story hiding behind the magic. Now, you won't believe me, but
That's actually kind of crazy. Never knew some of these things would happen. And that was just describing Disney from the sounds of it. That's actually really crazy.
The average theme park guest spends around 70% of their visit waiting in lines. But here's the wild part.
You're not wrong.
We don't question it. We'll wait over an hour for a ride that's around the same runtime as a TikTok. So what gives? See, those lines you're waiting in are actually psychological minefields engineered by theme parks to control your behavior without you even realizing it. Let's start with those digital wait time signs telling you how long you'll be waiting in line for a ride. Sound helpful, right? Wrong. Get this. Some parks use what insiders called pessimistic wait times. Translation, they inflate the numbers. You see 45 minutes, but you're on the ride in 20. You feel like you've won, except you didn't. The parks engineered the whole thing. But there's a dark side to this too. Inflated wait times can also push you into buying fast passes that you can use to skip the standby line. Yeah, if every ride looks like it has a horrifying line, suddenly that pricey upgrade doesn't seem like such a bad idea. And when researchers compared posted times to actual wait times at Disney, the numbers didn't lie. The actual queues were around 60% shorter than their advertised times. Though, it has been widely reported that wait times are notably inflated in America compared to parks abroad. To put this to the test for myself, I went to Disneyland Paris and compared the digital wait times to the actual time it took me to get on the rides. I rode 9 rides the whole day, and on average, the queue lengths were actually 6% longer than their advertised wait times. So it seems wait times for rides are generally pretty accurate outside of America. But why do American theme parks overestimate timing so much? Probably because culturally there's a lower expectation for accuracy and transparency. Also, US parks are generally bigger and probably use queue times to manipulate and spread crowds between rides more. US parks also rely more on selling fast passes, so it's not just about guest experience, it's about millions of dollars in upsells. Even the shape of the lines themselves are also designed to mess with your head. Ever notice how you're zigzagging endlessly, never seeing the full queue? That's deliberate. If you saw how long it really was, you'd bail. So they distract you with curves, corners, music, animatronics, sometimes even interactive elements. It's not just a line, it's a psychological pacifier. These days,
Ugh.
virtual queues are on the rise. Guests join through an app or digital wristband that tracks queue times across the park. They select which attractions they want to ride and then virtually wait the length of the queue before boarding the ride through the Fast Pass entrance. Sounds great in theory, but think about it. While you're roaming the park waiting for your time to ride, you pass that food stand, that gift shop, out of line you're more likely to spend, and the park knows it. So what can you do? Well, honestly, not much. But there are a few free tricks. The best cheat code? Single rider lanes. These are
Oh,
separate
yeah, I
lines
get
for
it.
solo guests used to fill empty seats on rides, and they can seriously cut your wait time. Not every ride has them, but keep an eye out for the signs. Just know the catch: you'd have to be willing to split from your group to ride. No exceptions. So grab your most independent friends and embrace the solo life. Now, if you're
Okay,
hardcore
that's fair.
coaster head,
That's fair.
you've probably argued about the best seat on board. Now, sure, you might get the best view on the front row, but if you want the wildest ride, you're doing it wrong. Coaster designers say the back row is where it's at. When a coaster charges over a drop, the front car pulls over first, and then the back gets whipped over like a slingshot. It's pure momentum. The back is always playing catch up with the front cars, which means crazier speeds, bigger airtime, and barely any line because everybody's busy fighting for the front. And if you
I
really want to level
see.
up, ride later in the day. Coasters need time to warm up, kind of like a car. In the morning, the wheels and bearings are cool and tight, making early runs slower. By the afternoon, after hours of non-stop rides, the wheels heat up, the chassis loosens, and everything gets way faster and way smoother. But if you're a true speed freak, hit your favorite coaster a few times throughout the day, but definitely save a ride for just before the park closes. That's when it's running at full beast mode. Front row might get the glory shots, but boarding in the back row on the last ride of the day, that's where the real action is. And
I
here's a
see.
bonus theory that's been
Hmm. So sitting in the back causes more of an acceleration, if I'm understanding. I I think I understand that bit. You get whiplash, you get um, increased speed, you get all this stuff. Okay, okay, I get it. Though it does make sense about the whole psychological thing with lines and all that. Because I did have those cases where going to an amusement park and there's this one wait time, and I'm thinking, this is gonna take forever and all that. But it doesn't. Something else happens. But yeah, it leads to that kind of thing, and it does make a big question on if uh, if uh, if you actually waited that time, because there are moments where I felt like, again, uh, that was shorter. Some people I know said the same thing, and sometimes we just shrug it off and just say that maybe something happened on the ride and it became faster and whatnot. So yeah.
floating around. Some people think parks may have subtly sped up certain rides over the years, not for thrills, but for efficiency. Boosting speed by even 10
Huh?
to 15% might be unnoticeable to most riders. But if you're thinking they've done this to give you a bigger thrill, no siree. Speeding up rides means more cycles per hour, shorter lines, but less ride time for you. Are parks tricking us into thinking we're getting more by giving us less? Okay, so here's another theme park hack that literally nobody talks about. But once you know it, you'll never see things the same way again. Picture this. You've just arrived at the park after traveling all morning. You're hyped and ready to dive into fun, so you head straight for the rides at the front. But here's the catch. Everybody else is doing the exact same thing. Join them, and the
Oh,
only adrenaline rush you'll be feeling is the
you want to go to the rides in the back because it takes a bit for people to get there, but people are going to be more invested in the rides in the front than the rides in the back. Okay, yeah.
overwhelming urge to punch someone while you fight your way through endless shoulder-to-shoulder crowds. The real move? Hot-foot it straight to the middle section of the park. While
Oh, middle
everyone's
section.
jammed at the front, you can knock out a few rides with zero wait. Then, work your way toward the back of the park and take advantage of these still practically queueless rides there. By the time the crowds catch up, you'll already have been and gone. And here's where it gets even crazier. If you stop and look around, you'll notice most people instinctively veer right when entering a park. Why? It's science, and most likely stemming from the fact that most people are right-handed. Our brains are so hardwired to lean that way in unfamiliar places, and in a crowd, herd instinct takes care of the rest. So the ultimate pro move? Go left, hit the middle, then work your way to the back. Fewer lines, more rides, plus some extra sweet satisfaction from beating the system. You're welcome. So real talk,
Interesting.
there
I'm gonna
are
have to test that out to see if it
thousands
works.
of trash cans at theme parks, but Disney World in Florida, they take it to the next level, placing one every 30 feet. But if you've ever visited, have you ever actually seen someone empty one? No. Exactly. Think about it. Tens of thousands of people are cramming Mickey waffles and turkey legs into their faces every single day. Yet somehow, you never catch anyone hauling away a giant bag of trash. It's not just luck. It's not even magic. It's something way weirder. You've probably heard about the utilidors, those secret underground tunnels at Disney World Orlando where cast members move around without ruining the fantasy. But here's what Disney really doesn't want you thinking about. There's another set of tunnels down there, and they're not for people. They're for trash. Hidden underneath the park is a high-tech vacuum system called AVAC, short for Automated Vacuum Assisted Collection. When you toss your garbage, it drops into a hidden chute at the base of the trash can, gets sucked into a massive pneumatic tube, then flies underneath your feet at 35 miles per hour all the way to a secret collection area tucked behind Splash Mountain. It's like a trash-eating monster living under Main Street. Disney's super hush-hush about the full setup, but we do know similar systems exist, like this one on Roosevelt Island in New York. Disney actually imported the tech from Sweden and launched it during the opening of Walt Disney World in 1971. The system is unique to Disney World in Orlando, while other Disney parks, like Disneyland Paris, empty their trash manually. But it does kind of make you wonder, how come Disney didn't roll out the system to their other parks? What else are they hiding? The childhood rite of passage, nervously shuffling up to that height stick outside your dream roller coaster. It's a moment of suspense. Will you get the green light, or face the gut-wrenching agony of maybe next year? But how are height requirements actually set? Here's the deal. Ride manufacturers determine a minimum height based on safety tests and engineering. But once the park buys the ride, they can tweak the requirement, though they can only raise it, not lower it. Why? Sometimes it's a marketing tactic to target older thrill seekers and keep younger kids off rides that might not be suitable. For example, Thorpe Park in the UK set the height requirement for the horror-themed Saw at 52 inches, though most coasters of the same model run safely at 47 inches. Height requirements also vary by country. In Europe, they're in meters, while in the US, they're in inches. This means you might be able to ride similar coasters in one country, but not the other. Take Nemesis
Oh.
Inferno at Thorpe Park in the UK and Raptor at Cedar Point in the US. They're both almost identical inverted coasters, but Raptor has a 54-inch minimum, while Nemesis has a 1.4-meter requirement. Convert that, and Raptor technically has a stricter height requirement. In reality, it's more likely that the manufacturer's height requirement for the ride is at least 54 inches, meaning each park has been able to adapt their height requirements safely to the nearest number unit. Cedar Point has simply rounded the ride's minimum height requirement to the nearest inch, while Thorpe Park has rounded it to the nearest 0.1 of a meter. So if you're just a hair too
That is
short,
confusing.
try crossing an ocean and give it a go there. Coming out of your seat mid-ride is the ultimate theme park nightmare. Even for the most
Yeah,
experienced
obviously.
coaster enthusiasts, your life is in the hands of a metal bar and what's actually keeping you in. And how safe is it, really? There are two main types of roller coaster restraints: ratchet and hydraulic. The hydraulic restraints use pressurized fluid to hold the bar in place, while ratchet restraints are the most common. You know you've got a ratchet restraint if you hear that loud click, click, click as the harness comes down. That's a metal pin dropping into a series of grooves before coming to a stop when it's in the correct position to secure the rider. Most ratchet systems even use multiple pins at once, so if one fails, which is super rare, the others are ready to take over. But that doesn't mean restraint failures never happen. In 2024, a guest at Castles and Coasters in Phoenix reported a
Okay.
terrifying malfunction on the Desert Storm roller coaster when his lap bar unlocked just before the first big drop. He had to quickly jump out of the train at the ride's peak seconds before the plunge. He safely climbed down emergency stairs and alerted the staff. No other riders appeared affected, but the man said the situation could have been fatal if he hadn't acted fast. Worst of all, the park only offered him a refund for his near-death experience. Incidents of restraints failing mid-ride like this are extremely rare. Roller coasters are run by a central software brain called a programmable logic controller connected to hundreds of proximity sensors all over the ride, including the restraints. These sensors constantly feed data to that brain, which decides if the coaster is safe to run. If a restraint isn't locked, the ride won't start, even if there's no one in the seat, which is why operators often secure restraints on empty seats. Once the ride's moving, restraints stay locked until the train hits a specific spot in the station that triggers their release. In emergencies, operators use special tools to manually unlock restraints. So yeah, you're not really locked in until the ride says you are. Though I guess the rider at Castles and Coasters might beg to differ. We all know theme parks are masters of crafting a fantasy world.
Okay, so that's interesting, actually. So there are different types of methods on how to lock roller coaster rides: gear and hydraulic. Never knew that. But then again, I probably never seen or been on hydro. I never been on a hydraulic one. So that's actually really interesting. It's also really cool to see the technical points that one doesn't normally see. Interesting. It's an interesting thing, can admit. So yeah, that's something I didn't expect to see, but it's also really cool because you know how the safety mechanisms work and all that, and how the rides function. Okay, so a lot of
Haunted
safety concerns
mansions,
there.
magic
That's cool.
castles, space stations, cursed tombs, you name it. But what you might not realize is just how deep the illusion really goes. Take Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey at Universal's Islands of Adventure. You walk into Hogwarts, and it's amazing. Dumbledore's office, the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, talking portraits. It's like they really built all this inside the castle you see at the front. Well, spoiler alert, They didn't. The park map shows Hogwarts right next to Hogsmeade. But here's the thing. Hidden behind that castle is a giant, lifeless white warehouse that looks more like a Costco than anything magical. See, most indoor rides aren't where you think they are. You'll think you're flying through Hogwarts, but in reality, you're strapped to a robotic arm inside a huge hidden warehouse that you didn't know was there. Disney's Haunted Mansion does the same thing. You walk down the spooky path into the manor thinking you're deep inside, but nope. You're just in a huge show building, hidden just behind the facade. It's all just a mask to hide
Yeah, that makes
giant
sense.
industrial spaces,
Yeah,
and unless you know where to look, you'll never notice. So next time you're standing in front of the entrance to a ride thinking, this is incredible, just remember, behind all that magic, it's probably just a giant box. But wait, it's not just indoor rides hiding secrets. Let me loop you in on another illusion that I think will totally change how you see water rides. Ever notice how the water's always a little murky? Wondered how the park is letting water get this filthy? Well, here's the truth. It's actually deliberately dyed to cover up another dirty secret. See, parks use this dye to hide the underwater machinery that powers the ride. But just because the water's dyed doesn't make it any cleaner. Turns out people have done some seriously disturbing things in that water. We're talking spitting,
Spit on that thing.
peeing, and even pooping. And don't forget about those white powder alerts I mentioned earlier. Yeah, those happen on water rides too, and let me tell you, even a HEPA vacuum isn't gonna do much there. So, next time you're tempted to dip your hand in that flume, spare a thought for what you might be touching or ingesting. If you've
Okay, yeah. Thank goodness I know no one that does that. But yeah, now I'm gonna be very concerned about the whole water thing. Well, maybe not the fountain thing. Actually, that might be worse. Oh god, that might be worse.
ever seen a stuck coaster, you'll think it'll never happen to you, but hold up, because ride breakdowns are actually way more common than you think. It's even happened to me, but don't freak out. 99% of the time, these are not dangerous. They're usually triggered by basic stuff like safety systems doing their job, a tiny power glitch, or guests dropping something mid-ride. Big theme parks? Yeah, they see multiple ride stoppages or evacuations every single week, especially in peak season. Most breakdowns happen quietly behind the scenes without anyone ever noticing. But those crazy high up ones that make the news, they're rare, but still happen a couple times a year. While operators can manually stop the ride, most of the time, the computer's actually running the show. Remember those proximity sensors that are everywhere? Well, sometimes those sensors get a little overprotective, halting the ride for even the tiniest hiccup. Here's how it goes down. When the system detects a problem, it locks the restraints and safely brings the ride to a stop. Operators check the system, call maintenance, and try to get things back to normal. If they fix it quickly, everyone stays on board and the ride continues. But if it takes longer than 30 minutes, or someone needs urgent medical attention, that's when the evacuation plan kicks in. First, the ride op will call in a trained evac team to get everyone off safely. If you're close to the ground, it's just a nice chill walk off. But if you're way up high, that's when things get real interesting. After a safety assessment, riders are unbuckled and guided down a narrow catwalk or emergency stairs next to the track. Looks intense, but it's super calm, controlled, and all designed to make sure everyone stays safe and gets the info they need. And here's a little fun fact. Parks keep track of every ride, stoppage, or evacuation that lasts longer than 10 minutes. Not just for legal stuff, but also to improve their responses in the future. So next time you hear about a ride breaking down, just know it's proof the safety systems are doing exactly what they're supposed to. Now let's get to the part we're all here for.
Let's be honest, in all honesty. It's better to have your ride stopped due to the overprotection of safety than you to go on a ride and everything falls into mayhem and there's a lot of incidents, chaos, accidents, and the need to call emergency immediately and have them arrive as soon as possible or immediately. Because let's be honest, again, I think people would prefer that than, you know.
Or the accidents, but fair warning, the truth might shock you. You'd assume roller coasters are the deadliest, but plot twist, they only account for about 10% of serious theme park ride incidents. The most
Really?
dangerous ride at theme parks? It's the flat rides. Flat rides are the ones like drop towers, swinging hammers, and pendulums. While a lot of people regard these as filler attractions to fill up time between coasters, these rides can turn innocent thrills into deadly chills. These make up 37% of serious incidents, and when they fail hard. Think snapped restraints, flying bolts, Final Destination grade stuff. Take the Fireball incident at the Ohio State Fair in 2017, when a ride car straight up broke off in midair, resulting in 7 injured and 1 who didn't make it out at all. The cause? Well, no one knew it, but there was a whole bunch of corrosion hidden inside the ride's mechanical arm, and, well, it was one swing too many. Then in 2019, at Kankaria Adventure Park in India, the Discovery ride took a deadly turn. The main arm snapped out of nowhere, sending the ring of seats crashing down to the ground. 27 people were hurt, and 2 didn't make it. Even when death isn't involved, some rides just give off bad vibes. Take Sledgehammer at Canada's Wonderland. No fatalities yet, but it's a prototype that constantly breaks down from mechanical failures, sometimes sitting shut down for months. So if you believe in omens, you'd be no chicken to sit some of these rides out. Some other rides you wouldn't even suspect still hold a risk, one of which are water rides like log flumes and river rapids. You might think the biggest risk on these rides is getting wet, but under the surface, there's hidden dangers lurking. Water rides and major theme park incidents have some of the highest fatality rates of any ride type. Over a third of serious incidents end in death. And with rides like River Rapids, one accident can endanger an entire boatload of people. Riders can be launched into the water or, worse, into moving machinery. Take the tragic case of the Thunder River Rapids at Dream World in Australia. In 2016, a raft carrying 4 adults and 2 kids collided with another and flipped over. The kids managed to escape, but the adults became trapped underwater, with the rides still moving machinery. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Only about 9% of accidents on fixed-site rides are due to technical failures, making them surprisingly rare. And while those stories can make headlines, rides at major parks are still among the safest attractions out there. That's thanks to layered redundancy, engineering speak for backup systems on top of backup systems. Restraints have dual locks, braking systems are doubled up, and coaster supports are designed to share the load if one fails. That's what saved Fury 325 in 2023. When a huge crack split one of its main beams mid-operation. The coaster didn't immediately collapse because nearby supports picked up the strain. The ride was still shut down, the beam replaced, and investigators found the cause: slow-building metal fatigue from years of repeated stress. Scary? Sure, but these rides are, in a way, designed to fail. But in the safest way possible, of course, which is actually pretty neat. When something goes...
Yeah, I never really consider that thought process. The fact that the safest ride might be the actual roller coaster stuff. But now you know.
What's wrong on a ride, the ride operator on duty is often told to keep tight-lipped while corporate handles the legal mess. And while the park is usually the one held legally responsible, blame still tends to fall on the operators. After a 2015 crash at Alton Towers left 6 people seriously injured, the park was prosecuted, but a young operator was fired anyway, despite never being criminally charged. And it's not just operators under pressure. Maintenance staff can face the same corporate silencing. One technician at Orlando's Icon Park claims he was fired for refusing to falsify safety logs on the Orlando Freefall ride. In a lawsuit, he said he'd flagged issues with the ride's seats and structure months before 14-year-old Tyree Sampson's fatal fall in 2022. He also alleged that ride operators had been overriding safety sensors to fit larger riders. After the incident, he was allegedly asked to fill in missing maintenance records. When he refused, he was fired. And this isn't the only time warnings from employees have seemingly been ignored by higher-ups. In one Disneyland, California case, a guest waiting in line for the slow-moving sailing ship Columbia ride was killed after being struck by a loose metal cleat from the ride. According to the lawsuit, employees had flagged the loose cleat weeks before the accident, and worse still, the operator in charge on that day wasn't even trained to work on that ride. Usually, theme parks take ride operator training incredibly seriously and have structured training programs for each ride. Operators aren't thrown straight into controlling big roller coasters. They start small. 5 hours of training for slow-moving kids rides and 8 hours of training for mid-level spinning rides. Only after proving themselves can they move on to big coasters, which can require 24 to 100 hours of training depending on the complexity and size of the ride. In reality, most ride operators take safety very seriously and work hard to make sure everyone has a fun, incident-free experience. Think about it. They're probably more nervous than you are that something could go wrong on their watch. So next time your stomach's in knots while waiting in line, spare a thought for the person in the operator booth. They're riding the pressure every day. You've probably noticed ride operators are more often than not teenagers. So why are literal college students in charge of multi-ton death machines? Well, because theme parks rely on seasonal workers, and short-term contracts are pretty appealing when you're broke and home from college. But here's the part they don't show you in the recruitment video. Seasonal employees can work up to 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, often stuck out in the heat with zero shade. If you work the morning shift, that could include being a ride dummy. According to ex-theme park workers, staff are sometimes required to take part in practice ride evacuations from the highest points in the ride. And if you think that's stomach-churning, wait till you hear about the staff canteen. Some parks ban employees from eating anything sold to guests, leaving them with food that's about to expire. Gross. Even worse, some employees claimed that because of the short turnaround between shifts, uniforms often went unwashed all summer, including for staff handling food. At one park, a 16-year-old with no prior kitchen experience was allegedly put in charge of cooking raw meat, unaware that cooked meat should be separated from raw. Ugh.
Raw chicken on top of cooked chicken. I am at a loss.
And for all that, you're usually making just above minimum wage. But it's not all dismal. There's some perks. Sometimes, staff get to walk the roller coaster tracks at open or close, catching glimpses of amazing views unseen by guests. There are also staff-only ride nights, end-of-season parties, and free entry to sister parks. Still, pressure is high. One mistake, one missed check, and someone could get hurt, or worse. And here's the most disturbing part. Several theme park employees have admitted to working shifts deathly hungover, having not gone to sleep the night before. Yes, including ride operators. Okay, so something else you've probably never thought about. You'd assume every roller coaster is custom built for the park it calls home, but in reality, many rides are actually secondhand. Yep, just like a used car, theme park rides are often bought, sold, and moved around from one park to another. A coaster might look shiny and new, but could have already thrilled guests across the country, or even across continents. Take the Tsunami Coaster, for example. It's been operating under different names at 4 different parks since 1986. It started at a German carnival, then bounced through a few Six Flags parks in the US, before finally landing at a theme park in Mexico. While it might sound shady, it's not unusual and totally above board. Entire websites exist solely to sell used rides. especially to smaller or regional parks trying to bulk up their attractions without breaking the bank. Of course, the theme parks themselves don't advertise to guests that their rides are recycled. Eco-marketing hasn't gone that far yet, but it's far more common than you'd expect. So what actually happens when a roller coaster is resold? First, the entire ride is taken apart section by section, almost like a giant Lego set, but with way more bolts and way higher stakes. Each piece is labeled and packed up for transport, often across countries. Before it gets to thrill riders again, it's usually given a makeover. A fresh coat of paint, updated systems, and new parts if needed. Then comes the big rebuild, where it's reassembled on a brand new foundation and put through safety checks. Basically, it's the same ride, just with a brand new identity. Sometimes, though, these hand-me-down rides come with darker histories. The Spinning Barrels ride, which was involved in a fatal accident in Germany back in 2016, was reportedly resold to an undisclosed buyer. Disturbingly, from the business's perspective, selling rides with a checkered past makes perfect sense. The park makes money from the sale whilst disposing of a ride with a poor reputation. Meanwhile, thrill seekers riding in the park, which just bought it, are none the wiser. But this raises an uncomfortable question. Should rides with a tragic past be given a second life somewhere else? So the next time you strap in for a spin at a lesser-known park, just remember, that ride might have seen more than just a different skyline. It could be carrying a history its new owners would rather you didn't know. Do you know any theme park?
Alright, that's an interesting bit, in all honesty. Never expected such a thing, and all to be truthful. So, the thing about theme park secrets. Yeah, I can see the whole thing about it. I truthfully don't know what to think about it, in all honesty. Because that is something. Okay, so we have some dark dealings with theme park rides that will just the people in charge of the theme parks will just sometimes allow rides even though there is this warning that the people that know about the machines and all that just know about, and they sometimes tend to ignore it. That's I I don't even know where to begin with that because that both sounds reckless and outright insane that such a thing it can happen. And then we got other stuff such as, and this part you can interpret it as what you think, but we got the part where they allow people to uh, operate on some stuff involving the park, such as food and whatnot. And there are people around 18 and stuff. So that's something to really think about in all honesty. And then finally, when it comes to a reconstruction of an old ride, I find it a bit interesting how that works. And it also seems really cool in all honesty. So that is my own personal opinion about the matter. So yeah. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video. Tell me what interesting fact here you found really interesting. I'd like to hear your opinion about the matter there. On which of these things really caught your eye. I'd like to hear your opinion. Tell me in the comment section below. And other than that, I'll be sure to see you all in the next video. Bye.